Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It's our Friday news dump of week 11 of the year. We're going to dump all that news we might have missed or updates on news stories and cover everything you need to know that's going on in the world before the weekend so you don't have to worry about it. Because on Before Coffee, the comprehensive news of Planet Earth podcast, we look up our stories 10 to 15 minutes before we start. We haven't had any caffeine, but we are ready to tell you what's going on, or at least attempt to understand what's going on. So let's get into these headlines for this Friday. Today on Before Coffee, North Sea crash ship's captain in custody for a further 36 hours. And Azerbaijan and Armenia say peace deal is ready for signing.
An American Airlines Boeing 737 starts on fire, and we are going to cover the arrest of former Philippine President Duterte.
Royal Mint releases commemorative coin honoring Beatles frontman John Lennon. And why is NHS England being axed?
And in nature news, researchers monitoring Mount Adams in Washington for seismic activity, and there is a blood moon eclipse happening tonight.
They Googled and gawped. Bahrain gives its pearl divers a sci-fi wonder.
And it's National Pie Day, so our show is better. How much better? It's 3.141592. So better on March 14th. 2025 on Before Coffee.
Yeah, I used to date a guy back in high school that would know all 20 numbers, you know. I was in marching band, so I was just surrounded by nerds, okay? But
he would just... more than 20, though.
Yeah, you just keep going. There's even a book about this, actually. There's a book that all the pages are just pi. Like, I don't know, right. It's like unending amount of pages that just the numbers keep going, because pi doesn't have an end, it has infinite. It goes on.
Yeah.
You'll never reach the end of it.
It also opens you up to many, many puns, so we'll see if we spin that today.
Yeah, we'll definitely be spinning that segue wheel, which I hope works. Hell yeah, it worked as soon as I pressed it. I love that. I love when technology works. Of course, we won't get any bad puns today. Just because today would be good for it. Alright, you're gonna have to give me an accurate metaphor and simile after these stories here. Okay. First, an update from the North Sea. Now, we didn't really cover this story on Before Coffee, but it has been happening. There was a crash in the North Sea by a ship, and now the ship's captain is in custody and being interviewed for the next 36 hours. This is on the BBC. Police have been given more time to question the captain of a cargo ship arrested on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter. The 59-year-old Russian national was arrested on Tuesday, which was... Let me look at my calendar here because I never know what day it is. Or day it was. The 11th of March, they were arrested after the U.S.-registered tanker Stena Immaculate, which was carrying 220,000 barrels of aviation fuel, and the Portuguese flag cargo ship So Long crashed off the East Yorkshire coast on Monday, the 10th of March. Both ships were engulfed in flames because it was air fuel, like hello, and 36 crew members were rescued. One person from the So Long is missing and presumed dead. What if this was all just a huge cover-up? That person wanted to escape, so he died in a terrible ship crash. I don't think it's that positive, unfortunately. Yeah. Humberside police said a magistrate court had granted an extension to detain the man in custody for a further 36 hours. I don't know what these words are because they're all cut off. DET, SUPT, I think that's like superintendent. I don't know what DET is. DET chairman, superintendent Craig Nicholson. I don't know why British people do this when they write. They shorten all the titles, and then I'm like, I don't know what the original title was. I'm pretty sure it's deputy something superintendent, but I don't know what the ch is. Yeah. Anyways, the deputy, Craig Nicholson, said extensive lines of inquiry by police into any potential community Offices which arise from the collision between the two vessels are ongoing. Potential criminal offenses which arise from the collision between the two vessels are ongoing, whilst partner agencies continue their own assessments of the incident. Family liaison officers supporting the family of the crew member who is missing, believed deceased, and our thoughts remain with them. In an update on the situation, Chief Coast Guard Paddy O'Callaghan said both vessels were stable and salvors had been on board to carry out initial damage assessments to secure future safe access to both ships. He said that Stena Immaculate was still at anchor and the So Long continues to be held in a safe location by a tug, with small pockets of fire still being reported on the top deck. Aerial surveillance flights continue to monitor the vessels and confirm that there does not appear to be any pollution from either the Stena Immaculate or So Long, he added. Mr. O'Callaghan said that they would continue to monitor the vessels with a pollution response in place should it be required. Earlier on Thursday, which was yesterday, the 13th of March, Crowley, co-owner of the Stena Immaculate, said salvage crews would try to board the Stena Immaculate. The company said until salvagers board the ship, it was unclear what volume of Jet A1 fuel may be released. Spokesperson said Stena Immaculate was stable, remains securely anchored, and is being monitored via a salvage vessel by Crowley representatives and partners as well as government authorities. Initial third-party salvage operations for the Stena Immaculate have begun to assess the vessel exterior and indicate no ongoing release of cargo, product to the water, and no sheen on the water. The UK Maritime and Coast Guard agencies also indicated on Wednesday, the 12th of March, there have been no further reports of pollution to the sea from the Stena Immaculate. They added, of the 16 cargo holds, at least one was impacted. The Department of Transport said the So Long remains afloat and on almost even keel, and tomorrow's efforts will focus on addressing some smaller fires on board, which keep reigniting to enable safe boarding at some point in time for comprehensive damage assessment. So, only one missing, everyone else has been rescued, and there isn't a huge environmental impact from the crash, but that captain is still going to be on suspicion of gross negligence because it looks like they're being given the blame for the crash.
Right.
The Russian,
obviously he's Russian. He did it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, I don't know what the other So Long. I don't know what the So Long was doing. It just said that two ships crashed. So Long, the So Long was not anchored, whereas the Stena Immaculate was anchored. So who knows? That's what the investigation's for. Yeah.
Well, there's the accurate metaphor that strangers are like two ships passing in a night. Well, the metaphor here is these strangers met and they really didn't like each other. So.
One caught on fire, even.
Right. Two strangers meeting in the night actually are going to start on fire.
For my next story, peace signing. Everyone likes a peace deal. People stop getting killed for no reason, in my opinion. No, usually it's no reason. Hey, we don't like you. Let's throw our poor people at each other until they all die. This is from AFP and the Kyiv Post. Azerbaijan and Armenia said yesterday on the 13th of March that they had wrapped up talks aimed at resolving the Caucasus neighbors' decades-long conflict, with both sides agreeing on the text of a possible treaty. The deal to normalize ties would be a major breakthrough in the region where Russia, the European Union, and the United States and Turkey all jostle for influence. Let them influence each other. Baku and Yerevan fought two wars for control of Azerbaijan's Armenia-populated region of Karabakh at the end of the Soviet Union, again in 2020, before Azerbaijan seized the entire area in a 24-hour offensive in September 2023, which we did cover on this show. Nearly all the ethnic Armenians, more than 100,000 people, fled Karabakh after the takeover by Baku because they believed they were about to get genocided. We need to get out of here. These guys don't like us. Both countries have repeatedly said a comprehensive peace deal to end their long-standing animosity is within reach, but previous talks had failed to reach consensus on a draft agreement. The negotiation process on the text of the peace agreement with Armenia has been concluded, Azerbaijani Foreign Minister Ceyhun Bayramov told reporters. Armenia has accepted Azerbaijan's proposals on the two previously unresolved articles of the peace treaty, he said. Armenia's foreign ministry later confirmed that in a statement, saying negotiations on the draft agreement have been concluded, and the peace agreement is ready for the signing. So they're going to have some fancy little ceremony where they're going to meet each other, take pictures, sign it in front of all the cameras, and they're going to say, "We did it." Of course, Azerbaijan is still on trial for open war crimes. 2 trials, one for the 15 former officials and another for the region's billionaire former leader, Ruben Vardanyan, opened in the Azeri capital Baku on today, the 14th of March. Armenia Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan hailed an important event, saying Yerevan was ready to begin discussions on the plan, the time for signing the peace agreement. "We believe that this text is a compromise, as a peace agreement should be," told reporters, which means both sides gave and took away from each other. Hopefully. I don't know what they're giving or taking away. I don't know if they've even said what's in the peace agreement. But in a hint of enduring tensions, Armenia criticized Azerbaijan for making statements unilaterally rather than issuing a joint one. "Come on, guys, we have to say together we're signing it, not just you." Pashinyan has recognized Baku's sovereignty over Karabakh after 3 decades of Armenian separatist rule, a move seen as a crucial first step towards a normalization of relations. Armenia also last year returned to Azerbaijan 4 border villages it had seized decades earlier. Tensions over the conflict have also driven a wedge between Armenia and Russia, with Yerevan accusing its ally of not doing enough to support it. "Come on, Russia, why don't you let us take over Azerbaijan?" Armenia last year suspended some participation in the Moscow-led Collective Security Treaty Organization, CSTO, over the bloc's failure to come to its aid in the conflict with Azerbaijan. Russia, the United States, and the European Union have all tried to play a mediating role in various times in the conflict. One key issue was non-deployment of third-party forces along the country's shared border, he said. There were also disagreements over plans for both sides to mutually withdraw legal cases from international judicial bodies. The 2 countries have been locked in a legal battle at the International Court of Justice, the International Criminal Court, and the European Court of Human Rights over allegations of right violations committed before, during, and after the armed conflict. Azerbaijan's next expectation from Armenia is constitutional amendments, by Ramov said. Baku is demanding that Armenia remove from its constitution a reference to its Declaration of Independence, which asserts territorial claims over Karabakh. Any such amendments to Armenia's constitution would, of course, require a referendum. So there's your news. It does seem, I think if I was Armenian, it would feel like we lost. Armenia lost everything there. Azerbaijan took the region that they believe should be Armenian, and had Armenian people living there. They have to, Azerbaijan has to get dropped out of international court because they're currently in the international court for subjugating those Armenians that were living in the Karabakh region.
Oh, yes.
So it does seem like Azerbaijan kind of won. I don't exactly know what concessions they're giving Armenia, because it sounds like only Azerbaijan got concessions from Armenia, not the other way around. But now this article does not say what Azerbaijan gave away or gave up or let go.
Well, they're an autocracy, fascist regime. So I don't know. I think I trust them. Anyway. Azerbaijan is here's my metaphor. I don't know if your story's over, but here's my metaphor.
Yeah, that's the end of the story.
Azerbaijan is looked at. Neighbor's got the Confederate flag flying, the Nazi flag, and he keeps pissing over my fence. And the cops come along and say, "You're gonna make peace with your neighbor. He ain't all that bad." Anyway, there's your metaphor. He ain't all that bad in my ass. He's pissing over my fence. Anyway.
All right, let me roll the segue wheel for myself.
Roll the wheel. Roll the wheel. Roll the wheel, roll the wheel.
My good old mixed metaphor, my classic that I always get good at. There you go.
Yeah, because I got 2 stories, so get your mixer, put it in puree.
Blend them up.
Puree these stories together. This is from AP News. American Airlines Boeing 737 catches fire at Denver.
Uh-oh.
At Denver Airport. Ooh, at the airport. This is happened last night. 12 people were taken to hospitals after an American Airlines plane landed in Denver International Airport on Thursday and caught fire, prompting slides to be deployed so passengers could evacuate quickly. All the people, luckily it caught fire on the ground, so they can just, let air in and stuff, or let people out. On the air, you're screwed because you're breathing pure oxygen. All the people transported to hospitals and minor injuries, according to the post on the social platform X by Denver International Airport. Flight 1006, which was headed from Colorado Springs Airport to Dallas-Fort Worth, diverted to Denver and landed safely around 5:15 p.m. after the crew reported engine vibrations, the Federal Aviation Administration said in a statement. While taxiing to the gate, an engine on the Boeing 737-800 caught fire, the FAA added. So alert pilots saved a lot of lives by landing. Photos and videos posted by news outlets showed the passengers standing on the plane's wing as smoke surrounded the aircraft. The FAA said passengers were exited using the slides. American said in a statement that the flight experienced an engine-related issue after taxiing to the gate. There was no immediate clarification on exactly when the plane caught fire. The 172 passengers and 6 crew members were taken to the terminal, airline officials said. We thank our crew members, Denver team, and first responders for the quick and decisive action with the safety of everyone on board on the ground as a priority. Firefighters put out the blaze by the evening, and an airport spokesperson told media outlets. The country has seen a recent spate of aviation disasters and close calls, stoking fears about air travel, which this article does also by saying that. Though flying remains a very safe mode of transport, it says. Recent on-the-ground incidents have included
guys,
that crashed.
Please buy plane tickets. We're still safe.
Recent on-the-ground incidents have included a plane that crashed and flipped over upon landing in Toronto, and a
very famous
Japan Airlines plane that clipped a Parked Delta plane while it was taxiing at Seattle Airport. So be careful out there and stop setting your planes on fire. And a bigger story today, we're going to talk about the Bay Area news. This is from mercurynews.com. Kyle Martin, Bay Area Filipino community reacts to arrest of ex-president Rodrigo Duterte. Is Duterte? Duterte. Let's call him former Philippine President Rodrigo. Well known for his violent war on drugs, this is from actually the mercurynews.com. Kyle Martin was arrested this week after 3 judges from the International Criminal Court signed a warrant for his arrest on charges of crimes against humanity. Duterte's alleged connection. The warrant lists his alleged connection to at least 43 deaths during his presidency because of his encouragement of extrajudicial killings of suspected drug dealers and users. Killing drug users, yeah. He's suspected of inciting the deaths of thousands of Filipinos across the country after rising to power in 2016. Upon arriving in Manila on Tuesday, he was arrested, put on a charter plane, and sent to The Hague in the Netherlands. He was in custody there by Wednesday, according to media reports. This will be a long legal proceedings, but I say to you, I will continue to serve my country, Duterte said in a video posted on his Facebook page from the charter plane taking him to The Hague. In the Bay Area, many celebrities celebrated his arrest, which was characterized as a bittersweet because it represents a small semblance of justice following his reign between 2016 and 2022. The Bay Area is home to we're talking about the San Francisco Bay.
Yeah.
The Bay Area is home to some 500,000 Filipinos, about 12% of the 4 million Filipinos in the United States, according to the 2017 American Community Survey, with many living in Daly City, south of San Francisco, Union City, San Jose, Milpitas, Hercules, and elsewhere. I lived in elsewhere. It's a very nice town. The arrest of his arrest is a product of the Filipinos' collective struggle for justice and accountability. And of course, the rest of it is deeply personal to me and those who live in the countryside, particularly the rural and indigenous masses, said Brandon Lee, a Chinese American who survived the military assassination attempt under the former administration in August 2019. It gives me and my family a sense of justice as well as those in the Philippines, that this monster is being driven to trial. Hopefully, he'll get caged. Lee was working with the indigenous people of Ifugao, a province in northern region of Luzon, the Philippines' main island, when he was repeatedly harassed and tailed by military troops. He said the military red tagged him or labeled him a communist terrorist for opposing several infrastructure projects in the region, such as mines and dams, which he said would have disrupted the way of life of the Igorot people. Born and raised in the Sunset District of San Francisco, Lee was shot 4 times in the back and jaw and suffered injuries which left him disabled. Lee said while he was hospitalized in the Philippines, he suspected military and police officials were going to try to finish the job. Fearing for his life, he was airlifted back to the U.S. His wife and daughter shortly followed him. Officials and humanitarian groups estimated Duterte could be connected to the killings of up to 30,000 Filipinos during his tenure as president. He rose to power in a campaign predicated on the reining in drug gangs, and he was well known for saying he would kill some of them himself. These are things that were done under his administration that also have far-reaching effects, and they're still being felt right now, said Maria Ortuaste, an international law professor at Cal State, East Bay, and Hayward, and a former research director for the Philippine government. It is some form of justice, but we do have to remember that without this, all of our other people's lives will be erased from our memory, and that's unfair. Duterte's supporters, including his children, have protested online and in media reports that he was kidnapped. That's right. When you're arrested for a crime, it's kidnapping.
In a way,
and
yeah.
That is the
but it's more like adult napping because you're not a kid, are you?
Yeah, it's adult nap. And that is arrest of unlawful. His arrest was unlawful because he was removed from the Philippines from the ICC's jurisdiction in 2019. His son Sebastian Baste, mayor of Davao City, filed a petition of habeas corpus for the Philippine Supreme Court to return his father from The Hague, which the courts denied on Wednesday. So tough shit. He's staying in there. There's your story. Trial gonna happen. We don't know. It's always interesting when they put these guys on trial. There's your story.
Okay. Well, we really went out of those airplanes really went out of the fire, but that guy was in wolf's clothing the entire time. So, there's your mixed metaphor.
I am so mixed up.
Instead of into the fire, I said out of the fire.
I know. I get it.
Instead of sheep's clothing, it's the wolf's clothing. Everyone knew. He's a bad guy. I'm not a bad guy. Isn't that the bad guy who did all those bad things? No, that's a different guy. Different guy completely. Thank you. I will keep speaking until you give me the applause I deserve. Alright, rolling your wheel for your segue. Now you're gonna have to compete with my mixed metaphor with your own mixed metaphor.
Oh, no. Okay.
Okay, for my next section here, we're gonna talk about the UK. First, some positive news, depending if you have money in your wallet. It's John Lennon's 85th birthday, or it's going to be his 85th birthday. I don't know when it is, but they're celebrating it in the Royal Mint by making a commemorative coin honoring John Lennon. This is from Vicky Shaw on The Independent. The coin features a portrait of Lennon based on a photograph by Bob Gruen, which was taken on the roof of the singer's New York penthouse. It was designed by Henry Gray, who placed the portrait at the center. The design also features Lennon's name to the left of the word Imagine, a nod to his iconic single and album to the right. Lennon joins a prestigious group of music icons honored by the Royal Mint, including fellow Beatle Sir Paul McCartney, Queen, David Bowie, and Dame Shirley Bassey. Oh, I had no idea. Shirley Bassey got one too. The coin is part of the Royal Mint's ongoing Music Legends series, so get your little coin collector thing so you can go, look at this, I've got the McCartney coin, the Queen, David Bowie, and Shirley Bassey. Now I'm getting that John Lennon coin, and I'm going to sell all these coins for $1 million when the full set is released. The coin is part of the Royal Mint's ongoing Music Legends series, which celebrates influential singers and songwriters. Rebecca Morgan, director of the commemorative coin at the Royal Mint, said, arguably one of the greatest singers and songwriters of all time. Lennon's achievements as an artist, activist, and advocate for peace continue to live on. He will now be forever remembered on a coin. Lennon's portrait has been captured in meticulous detail, and in a fitting tribute will be released in the year which the artist would have celebrated his 85th birthday. Still admired by millions of people and generations worldwide, we hope this coin as the design will be treasured for many years to come. Lennon fans and coin collectors will be able to buy the coins from the Royal Mint's website from 9 a.m. on the 17th, which will be... what is the 17th? The 17th is Monday, so next Monday. Make sure you wake up at 9 a.m. and cash in for that coin. Prices will start at £18.50. The coins will be available in a range of precious metals, including color editions, it's been said. Yeah, like imagine in a yellow font, John Lennon on like a silver. That's the picture here that they give us anyways. Lennon was killed in 1980 at the age of 40. The Beatles recently won a Grammy for Best Rock Performance for the song Now and Then, which was finished decades after it was recorded. The remastered track was sourced from a Lennon demo recorded in the 1970s. Lennon's son Sean picked up the gong on behalf of the group, said, "The world can't afford to forget about the people like the Beatles. We need this music in our world, and we need peace and love, and we need the magic of the 60s to stay alive." Ah yes, the magic of the 60s. Wait a minute. That time wasn't all just magic, but I get what you're saying. The positive stuff from the 60s. The positive stuff. Anyways, there you are. That's our news about John Lennon's coin. Now let's talk about the NHS and how it's being axed, specifically in England. And, we've got politicians squirming, trying to get out of, oh yeah, we totally destroyed the NHS again for the 15th time. This is from Jabata Mead on The Independent as well. NHS England will be abolished with the loss of 9,000 jobs to divert more money to frontline services and bring management back into democratic control. Sir Keir Starmer said an arm's-length body should not make decisions about the more than £150 billion of annual NHS England budget, as he promised the move would allow the government to deliver better care. Prime Minister warned the state was weaker than ever, while the health service is operated by an independent body, and said the NHS is overstretched, unfocused, trying to do too much, and doing it badly. Yeah, it's almost like we shouldn't privatize healthcare. Wait, who said that? Bringing it back under the Department of Health and Social Care would put an end to the duplication resulting from two organizations doing the same job in a system currently holding staff back from delivering patients. But how exactly does NHS England spend taxpayers' money, and how much has the government claimed it would save? NHS England is a quango, a quasi-autonomous, non-governmental organization, an arm's-length body that oversees the budget, planning, and delivery and day-to-day operations of the health service in England. It employs more than 15,000 staff and was set up in 2013 by the then Conservative Health Secretary Andrew Lansley to give NHS greater autonomy. To fuck people over. My opinion. It is funded by taxpayers, is not controlled directly by central government. Sir Keir said that move would free up cash for doctors, nurses, and frontline services, and cut red tape to help speed up improvements in the health service, and amid frustrations about pace of change. He added the cuts, which will see workforce more than halved, will refocus the NHS on cutting waiting times across the board. Where does the money from NHS England come from, and how do they spend it? Public funding for health services in England come from the Department of Health and Social Care's budget. The Department of Health and Social Care, DHSSC, is a ministerial department which is responsible for developing policies on health and social care in England. In October, Chancellor Rachel Reeves announced the health and social care budget will increase to £200.5 billion in this year's budget. Its sub-budget for NHS England will increase to £192 billion. Around 95% of the spending is on a daily cost, such as staff salaries and medicines. The remainder is allocated to central budgets of the DHSC and other arms-linked bodies. So, they get the money last. The NHS spends around £70 billion on salaries each year. According to NHS guidance, last year pay ranged from £23,000 in Band 1 up to £100,000 £121,000 at the highest end of Band 9. It is unclear what the distribution of salaries on the NHS England administrative staff are set to be cut. So these aren't doctors, by the way. This isn't doctors who are getting cut, right? These are the people who sit at a desk, the people who sit on the board of your hospital and say, well, we can only really afford to buy 2 million bandages this year, so we're going to have to cut how many lozenges we buy. Those kind of people. The people who are deciding, we should fire Dr. Tom because he's just not doing so well, so we're going to get rid of him. And also, I'm going to increase my salary to $121,000 today, this year. I'm not sure. I don't know if they're doing that. But it's always the assumption, right? The people on the board of directors on the hospital who aren't doctors, who aren't saving anybody's lives, are sitting there collecting money, turning the hospital into some sort of money-making scheme instead of a service to make sure the people in your country don't die, But that's the problem with privatization of things like healthcare. You get people making money off of dead people or dying people instead of people saving those dying people. They're getting rid of these administrative staff, and they're cutting it to slashing to 9,300 jobs. So this could save at least $219 million in staff pay each year, and in short term, the government will likely face redundancy costs from letting staff go and reorganizing the health departments. So what happens now? Health Secretary Wes Streeting told the Commons yesterday on the 13th he wanted a transition of moving NHS England into the Department of Health to be completed within 2 years. Today, we're abolishing the biggest quango in the world, Mr. Streeting told MPs. Mr. Streeting said that half of the 15,300 jobs in NHS England's administrative arm would be cut, alongside half of the jobs in the DHSC positions, which work on the NHS. Yet again, let me clarify, these are not doctors, these are not nurses, these are not, janitors. These are people who sit there and make decisions on what NHS England is going to do with the money that is allotted to them. Okay? It's very sad that that many jobs are being cut because these are still people who deserve a salary and have to pay for, the rent, their mortgages. But also, these aren't doctors. So don't freak out, because I know there's already people freaking out. They're cutting jobs at the NHS. Oh! They're trying to reorganize. I know there's people out there going, the doctors, think about this. These aren't doctors, guys. These are not doctors. Maybe some of them were doctors in the past, but they're not currently
administrators.
Doctors. Yeah.
Right, they're money savers.
Exactly. The NHS is the largest employer in the UK and the 6th largest worldwide, with 1.5 million staff as of November 2024. These cuts, estimated to be around 9,000 positions, make up a minuscule fraction of the total workforce. Right, yet again, 1.5 million, only 9,000 are being cut, representing just 0.6% of all employees. Cutting staff will deliver hundreds of millions of pounds worth of savings, but the exact figures will depend on how the service is reorganized, Mr. Streeting said. Across the NHS, over 13,400 senior managers are employed as part of infrastructure support. That sounds like a lot of CEOs getting a lot of money, but they're not doing anything.
Right, yeah.
According to the workforce statistics, these workers are likely part of the administrative staff at risk of losing their jobs. The number of senior managers has risen substantially in the past decade, increasing by 51% from 8,876 in November in 2014, while the overall NHS workforce only grew by a third. Okay, so suddenly you've got a bunch of admin who are getting huge paychecks. But then, how many doctors do we have? Not very many. But we have a bunch of people telling the doctors what to do. The government said work would begin immediately to return many of these functions of NHS England to the Department of Health and Social Care. The process would not be quick and is expected to take 2 years. A new leadership team by Sir Jim McKay and Dr. Penny Dash will oversee the transition while reasserting financial discipline and continuing to deliver on the government's priority of cutting waiting times. So, what is the estimate of how much money the government will save by deprivatizing, kind of? It's not really a deprivatization, but kind of breaking this huge amount of workers. They're said the Mr. Streeting said the abolition of the NHS England will generate £100 million in savings. Prime Minister's official spokesperson said more efficient, leaner center will free up capacity to help deliver significant savings of hundreds of millions of pounds a year, which will be reinvested into frontline services to cut waiting times for government changes. However, Sir Keir's spokesperson admitted it may take one-off capital investments or upgrades in order to release savings in the budget. So it's good news, but for now, we don't really know what the results will be, but hopefully we can move all these savings to actually hiring doctors and people who actually save lives in England instead of, a bunch of people making money off of privatized healthcare. There's my story. Give me my metaphors, please.
Two metaphors. John Lennon's story, which the Beatles said, money can't buy me love, but it can buy you a John Lennon coin. And the NIH is apparently sick as a dog, but the cure is worse than the disease.
Hell yeah.
Right. Okay,
let me roll
for my stories on
my wheel. My segues.
Nature, things that happen without any humans intervening whatsoever. So humans cannot control these things at all. So. All
right, fine. We got a bad pun. Let's hope I can fit some pie in there, huh?
Bad pun. Well, our first story is about a volcano. One of your active volcanoes out here in the West Coast, in the Northwest. Researchers, this is KGW.com. Researchers boost monitoring at Mount Adams amid minor quakes. From September to October last fall, this is from, Joy Rainieri. Mount Rainier, also an active volcano that could blow any time. Anyway, this is from Joe Rainieri. From September to October last year, Mount Adams saw several earthquakes. They weren't any larger than 2.0, but now the researchers are installing more monitors. Every single one of the volcanoes that lie in the Cascade Range are unique, and Mount Adams is no different. From September to October last year, there were 9 earthquakes ranging from 0.9 to 2.0, which are very small and barely noticeable. The normal for Mount Adams is very low. We have about 1 earthquake every 2 or 3 years, says Holly Weiss-Racine, who is the outreach coordinator for the Cascades Volcano Observatory in Vancouver. That's Vancouver, Washington, not Vancouver, British Columbia. Each volcano has its own personality, and we learn what that personality is by monitoring what levels of earthquakes and gases are normal for that volcano, added Weiss-Racine. Since Mount Adams usually sees 1 earthquake every 2 or 3 years, researchers wanted to be prepared. We went up and worked with the Forest Service to put 3 additional temporary stations in, said Weiss-Racine. They are solar powered, so they'll be able to tell us when there is an earthquake. She said adding those stations will open a lot more about the mountain. We don't have a lot of background information on Mount Adams. We've been monitoring the mountain for at least 42 years, but the volcano has been in existence for hundreds of thousands of years, said Weiss-Racine. The one thing that monitors will help researchers find is just how active the Mount Adams. Since October of last fall, the earthquakes have died down considerably, but researchers still plan on keeping a close eye on the mountains. Researchers want to know, just because there was above average earthquakes in the mountains, that doesn't mean there's a cause concern for an eruption. I say it's going to blow, man.
I think you should always assume it's going to blow, and then you won't be caught in it,
Right. That's right. Was that your pun? Oh,
no,
okay.
I don't think so. That wasn't really a bad pun. It was barely a pun. Yeah, it's just a fact, right? Assume it's going to blow.
On to more news about things that just happen that we can't control, we can just observe or get ready for. We have a lunar eclipse happening, total lunar eclipse, and we're going to figure out where to go to see it, if you can go. And maybe the sky is even clear for you. It's from space.com, Joe Rao. Bloodworm moon, U.S. forecast. The best places to see tonight's total lunar eclipse. As far as viewing prospects for tonight's total eclipse of the moon are concerned, it would appear that 3/4 of the nation will have at least some occasional views of the moon plunging through Earth's dark shadow. The period of total eclipse will be the period of total eclipse will begin at 2:26 a.m. Eastern Time, which is, it's 11:30 here. Early Friday morning, which corresponds to 11:26 p.m. Pacific time, late this evening. At least it's Friday night, right? Staying up late if you got a job, a 9 to 5 weekday job, then staying up late on Fridays are going to kill you the next day. Pacific time, late this evening, or 0:26 Greenwich Mean Time. The totality will last 66 minutes. Wow, that's a long one. Where'd the moon go? Who took the moon? The region of the country that will likely have the best overall weather conditions for tonight's total lunar eclipse will be the lower Great Lakes and Ohio Valley, southwest into the Central Plains, and down into Lone Star State of Texas. In contrast, a major storm emerging out of the northern and central Rockies will be accompanied by a broad swath of clouds and precipitation, which will extend across Montana, south to eastern Arizona and western New Mexico, likely hiding any views of the lunar eclipse. So that blows. Other areas where eclipse weather will be problematic will be near and along the Pacific coast of Washington, Oregon, sucks for me, and another in northern and central California, where a marine layer of low clouds will be in place at eclipse time. A similar area of low clouds is expected to hide the moon near and along the Gulf Coast of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and then Florida and Panhandle, as well as parts of the South Florida. I guess get on an airplane if you want to see it. I don't know what to tell you. Also, near and along the I-95 corridor of the Virginia Capes and extending northeast and down East Maine, an offshore weather disturbance will create a northeast airflow that likely will result in low cloudiness being swept in off the cool Atlantic Ocean, hiding a view from the moon for big cities such as Philadelphia, New York, and Boston. Well, you can't see the sky in New York anyway, so it's kind of pointless. And there's an astronomical event happening. Oh, well, I got all these skyscrapers here, which I can't see shit, but whatever. We can see a little tiny peak for a couple of seconds. However, a short drive inland in the west and north of these places should take one out from underneath this curtain of ocean clouds and into generally clear skies. So get in your car and just keep driving. Where'd the moon go? I don't know. I forgot it. We left the moon at home. We have prepared a map of these. It just shows these regions where sky conditions look best. Well, I'm not gonna display a map, so anyway, which shows these regions where sky conditions look best and worst for eclipse watchers. We have broken things down into 3 categories. Good cloud cover ranges from clear to scattered, no more than 30%. Fair cloud cover scattered from broken cloud cover, generally 30 to 70%. And of course, poor is cloud ranges over 70%. And of course, you're basically just peeking through clouds. A map of the United States, blah, blah, blah. For any late updates, your local weather forecast, of course, check with the local National Weather Service forecast office if it hasn't been shut down by Leon Scum and his gang of losers. Also, check here for the satellite imagery for your region, courtesy of GOES 16 weather satellite. If you are clouded out tonight, your next chance at seeing a total lunar eclipse from North America will come less than a year from now on March 3rd, 2026. Doesn't have a map of the world to tell you where to sit. Unfortunately, this is totally United States centric. I apologize for that. I did not write the article. I am merely reporting it. By the way, I did send you a video. That's my story.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right, ready for my pun? I only have one about the volcano because, well, you don't get 2. That's why. So here's a question. I think the Washington volcano has eruptile dysfunction.
Oh my.
Because they don't know when it's gonna blow up. He's nervous. He's shy, you know? Or she.
Yeah.
Because, you know, volcanoes have gender. Anyways. There's my bad pun for you.
They always say she's gonna blow.
So, according to Omlin, the lunar eclipse was 5 hours ago. So we missed it.
Oh, that sucks.
Well, I hope you enjoyed your lunar eclipse. You have to give me a personal story.
Okay.
I couldn't see it anyways. Whatever time it was, I It was in the morning. The sun was up. I wouldn't have been able to see it, so that's the problem with these eclipses, right? That reported, they're like, it's in the U.S. Okay, well, have fun over there on the other side of the globe. Okay. For my culture segment, we're going to talk about Bahrain's new sci-fi. Huh?
Sorry, what do we spin?
Personal story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We're going to talk about Bahrain's pearl divers getting a sci-fi wonder. So this is an architecture culture news. So if you're not into architecture, well, this might not be so interesting. This is from Oliver Wainwright on The Guardian. Think of contemporary architecture in the Gulf and you might think of gilded towers, rising from the desert, eye-popping iconic museums, and artificial islands carved into an ever more fanciful shape. But sandwiched between the petrodollar glitz of Qatar and the Saudi Arabia, there is an enclave that has been quietly bucking the trend. In Bahrain's old capital of Muharraq, a place of winding low-rise streets studded with markets and minarets, a project has been underway over the last 2 decades that goes against the usual penchant for brash bling. It takes the form of a 2-mile or 3.2-kilometer route that meanders through the densely packed city, linking new public squares and cultural venues, combining careful conservative with daring contemporary interventions. The Purling Path shows how the treatment of a UNESCO World Heritage Site doesn't have to mean choosing between preserving a place and aspect or resorting to a Disney-fied pastiche. The World Heritage Site, inscribed in 2012, consists of 17 buildings that each relate to a different part of Bahrain's historic pearl diving industry, along with 3 offshore oyster beds and a fortress on the southern tip of the island where pearl boating once launched. The linear route stretches from the southern shore to a museum in the north, telling the story of pearling economy, which was Bahrain's biggest industry until the discovery of oil in the 1930s. The crumbling coral stone buildings, beautifully renovated by Studio Gionatarizi, range from the humble home of a pearl diver to the lavish mansions of the wealthiest merchants and ship-owning families, with their exquisitely ornamental receptional rooms. Also, just imagine a very white place. I can't remember what it's called now. I think it's lime. But it's this idea, you make a brick building and you cover it with lime, and that way your house doesn't overheat. That's what Bahrain looks like, okay? So just think of those white houses that are covered in lime. Quick lime, I think, technically. Forming an agricultural breadcrumb trail, the route is marked by a distinctive lamppost made of concrete flecked with mother-of-pearl and topped with pearl-shaped globes. They link a sequence of new public spaces where groves of trees, shade benches, and drinking fountains, providing welcome oases to come alive every evening. They were conceived as a small living room in the city, says Al-Saheh. Muharraq is home to a lot of migrant workers who live together in cramped conditions. These squares give them a space to breathe, call their family, and have some time to themselves. Al-Saheh joined the project as a young architecture graduate from EPFL University in Switzerland, and she was trusted with recommending architects for the Purling Path's contemporary additions. The result reads like an outdoor museum of fashionable Swiss, Belgian, and Dutch firms, each given space to do their thing, and on occasion perhaps a bit too much for Bahrain. One of the first projects was the Dar al-Maraq, a performance venue designed by the Belgian firm Office Kirsten Geers David van Severen. In 3 floors are draped with a chainmail mesh veil, posted up like a theater curtain to allow the open-air Fijiri performances, folk music of the pearl divers, to spill out onto the street. The same architects also worked on the squares, with Bosch Smets, mastermind of the landscape plan for Notre Dame Cathedral, where they brought a similar theatrical sensibility, creating a charming urban stages where kids can play ball games while their grandparents gossip over tea. A few blocks away, the architectural volume is cranked up by Valerio Olgiati, a cult-ish Swiss figure courted by the likes of Kanye West and Travis Scott. His monumental Purling Path Visitor Center stands with the imposing air of a pharaonic funerary complex, hemmed by high-faceted concrete walls. A forest of minaret-like towers holds a vast concrete canopy 10 meters aloft, while an enigmatic bunker house as an exhibition space, a raw, dark concrete with peculiar air. There's a picture of this small living room, right, with some nice trees growing on this kind of pearlescent marble, little benches like an S place, and it's just like between all these houses, so people can go out there, sit around, have some lunch, talk to each other, talk to their neighbors. There's even a picture of a man playing with his kid right in the picture. The future primitive aesthetic continues in the renovation of the nearby Hasarai Sok, built with the elemental look of something from the Flintstones. Its simple slab roof is held up by rows of gnarled concrete boulders, which were formed by a part filling the molds with piles of sand. It is a work of Annie Holtrop, a Dutch architect who now runs his studio from a converted warehouse nearby, and is married to Al Sahi, who is also an architect working on this. So, isn't that cool? It's like an architect couple. He took a similarly geological approach to an office building a few streets away, where the concrete walls and floors were cast directly onto the earth. It features gigantic aluminum window shutters, similarly cast onto rough beds of sand in a foundry in the Netherlands, which makes it feel like heavy and tectonic plates each time you close the blinds. Oh yeah, that is a very sand-colored building. That's crazy. Yeah, it's like sandstone. It's like sandstone, but it's not sandstone. Most recently, Holtop has brought his alchemical touch to the Siadi Pearl Museum. Housed in the former residence of a wealthy merchant family, as well as restoring the historic property, the project includes a new block with rough texture plastered walls inside and out, giving it a semi-ruined look. I asked the workers to throw the plaster on the walls, and they scraped it with the biggest beam they could find, says Holtrop, who clearly revels in the ad hoc possibilities that Bahrain's informal construction culture allows. He had one of the galleries lined with silver leaf, then cooked pops of black salt to accelerate its oxidation, lending the space a dark, inky shimmer, a fitting backdrop to a lustrous pearls on show. The purling path generally manages to tread the fine line between conservation and intervention, with a tough heft of new additions mostly complementing the earthy fabric of Murarak. But its final element, completed last year, feels like a step of architectural hubris too far. Dotting the length of the route are 4 multi-story car parks designed by Swiss architect Christian Perez, who seems to have interpreted the brief as an exercise in pushing the acrobatic limits of concrete to an absurdist conclusion. The slabs of his parking structure ripple and billow, like the leaves of a huge filo pastry, as some slices of baklava from one of the local sweet shop windows has been inflated towards the sky. Standing like stacks of skate parks connected by corkscrew stairs, they were fiendishly complex to build, necessitating the drawing of 75,000 cross-sections to cut the wooden framework molds on site. Given that the purling path celebrates the joys of walking along a pedestrianized route, it seems an anathema to build these extravagant temples to cars. And many drivers appear hesitant to take the expensive SUVs on the carriage's undulating roller coaster ride. The structures were designed to double up as multi-purpose event spaces, but it's hard to think that, if so much of the parking was essential, it would have been better to bury it underground. Oh yeah, so there's a picture of this car park, which I guess what makes it scary is it doesn't seem like there's a lot of things stopping your car from driving off the end, even though there are railings and a fence, right? But it's a bit too open looking, right? That you feel like you could just drive your car off a ramp and then off the building. You've got people sitting down in like a lower section of the car park, I think with like somebody doing a speech or something. These extravagant automotive sculptures also add yet more concrete to the bill. For all its architectural merits, the Purling Path can look like a gratuitous advert for carbon consumption. For most sustainable materials considered, there are a few alternatives here, Al-Sahe insists. Any timber has to be imported from thousands of miles away, and it doesn't fare well in hot, humid climate. Roll of stone is now protected. Bahrain's only stone quarry got depleted a few years ago. Our challenge is to make the concrete more environmentally friendly, using recycled aggregate and being economic with formwork. The project overall is an admirable achievement, balancing the pressures of tourism, preservation, and local amenity with rare craft and panache. For future commissions now, the Muharraq is on the architectural map. The ministry might do well to think outside the white male European stable and use its power to give a stage to talent closer to home. So there you go. That sounds like I want to go there now just to walk among the Pearl Path. Very great tourism PR there, I guess. We completely remolded our city. Come look at it at Bahrain in Muharraq. So I guess if you ever find yourself in that side of the world, check it out. You'll be blown out of the water. I know. Bad pun for me. Got any personal stories about great architecture in cities? You ever go to a city and say, wow, they really designed this place?
Not really.
No?
Not really. I'm just kind of
What about
fascinated
Athens?
by,
What do you think about Athens?
Let me tell my personal story. It wasn't about Athens.
Oh, okay.
Just anytime I'm in any city and I see an old building, like it's usually like an old bank building. Because banks usually have extra money. Crap. And it's being occupied by some random business, But, 150 years ago or whatever, 100 years ago, this Art Deco thing was so, elaborate and fancy. Now it's a drugstore or a pet store or something. Whatever. There's my personal story.
Of course, they do that a lot in Europe, right? You'll find like a McDonald's built inside of a church or something, and you're like, "This is a McDonald's? I didn't even know it was here." Yeah, we built it inside of a 1,000-year-old building. Here you go.
A McChapel.
Yeah, big chapel to McDonald's. All right, let me roll my last segue of the show.
I said a McChapel.
A McChapel. Another bad pun.
Yeah.
All right, and more mixed metaphors for me. I'll keep taking them because those are fun for me.
Mixing my metaphors. Okay. National Day, 1681, way in the midst of time today. German composer George Philipp Telemann was born in Magdeburg, Brandenburg. He wrote both sacred and secular music, but is most admired for his church compositions. He composed churches, apparently. Not an easy thing to do. American inventor Eli Whitney received a patent for the cotton gin today. In 1794, which basically expanded slavery because it made cotton more profitable. So people, we need more slaves, the more cotton, we're making more cotton. 1826, the first Pan-American Conference convened in Panama with representatives from Mexico, Colombia, Peru, and Central America in attendance. That's right, and Panama was not necessarily even a city, which is weird, in 1820. It wasn't necessarily a country in 1826. So that was weird. Anyway, 1864, celebrated American railroad engineer Casey Jones was born in southeastern Missouri. Casey Jones, happy birthday to Casey Jones. Better watch your speed. 1879, Albert Einstein was born in Ulm, Germany. That's right, Albert Einstein, by coincidence, was born on Pi Day. I think that's amazing. Also, a few years ago, our genius, our resident genius, died on Pi Day. I can't think of his name right now. I'll think of it in a minute. German-American physicist Albert Einstein, one of the most creative intellects in human history, known for his groundbreaking theories of relativity, was born in Ulm, Germany. Happy birthday to Einstein. Also, Karl Marx died on this day. Historian and revolutionary Karl Marx. In 1883, he died at the age of 64. He wrote the Communist Manifesto with Frederick Engels. Of course, we all know who Karl Marx is by now, I think. 1899, German military official Ferdinand Graf von Zeppelin received a U.S. patent for the navigable balloon. The first Zeppelin made its initial flight the following year. Turn of the century stuff. 1951, the United Nations forces recaptured Seoul during the Korean War. Took it back, and it still got it. By golly. 1964, on this day, in the first courtroom verdict to be televised in the United States, Jack Ruby was found guilty of the murder of Lee Harvey Oswald, assassin of U.S. President JFK, and took his secrets to his grave. 2016, English composer and conductor Sir Peter Maxwell Davies died at the age of 81. His powerful, innovative music made him one of the most influential composers of the 20th century. Stephen Hawking's the one who died on this day. I knew I couldn't think of his name. Now it's right here. 2018 on this day, English theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking died at the age of 76, who is best known for his work for physics of black holes and for the brief history of time from the Big Bang to black holes. Died on Pi Day, Einstein's birthday. That is, of course, today is Casey Jones' birthday. It's also Quincy Jones' birthday. Another coincidence, right? Casey Jones and Quincy Jones, both born on March 14th. Quincy Jones, born in 1933, American songwriter and record producer, who died late last year. Our featured event in 2004, the re-election of Vladimir Putin. Oh yeah. Vladimir Putin, the intelligence officer and politician, became president of Russia and owner of Donald Trump. In 1999, upon the resignation of Boris Yeltsin, he was overwhelmingly reelected to a second term of president in the day 2004. Of course, the ballot said, vote for Vladimir Putin or lose your fingers. It was on the ballot. Those are your two choices. And people chose, I want to keep my fingers. Our feature biography, Lucy Hobbs Taylor, American dentist. She was probably the first American dentist of women, female dentist. She was born March 14th, 1833 in New York somewhere. And died October 3rd, 1910 at the age of 77 in Lawrence, Kansas. Pulling teeth, she was. Other birthdays today, besides Quincy Jones and Casey Jones. And everybody else that was born today, like Einstein. It's Michael Caine's birthday, British actor. Albert II, Prince. Michael Caine and Einstein. Get the two mixed up all the time. 1958, Albert II, Prince of Monaco, was born. In 1965, Amir Khan, Indian actor, was born. 1988, American basketball player Stephen Curry was born. So Stephen Curry turning 37 today. My God, he's old and he's still playing. Get off the court, you old man. And what national day is it today? Besides National Pie Day, where they have a pie made here, like a cherry pie with the pie symbol on it to be a visual pun. National Learn About Butterflies Day. Oh, I love butterflies. Butterflies are awesome. I love the chrysalis stage. It's very fascinating to me. Where they're in that little cocoon and they're just this mushy stuff and they come out as a butterfly. It's just amazing. National Potato Chip Day. Don't mistake a butterfly for a potato chip. Very easy mistake to make. When you're eating chips, oh, that was a butterfly. Never let it go. It wasn't a chip. It's National Write Down Your Story Day, so if you got a story, write it down. Hey, what are you waiting for? You might forget it if you don't write it down. It's National Children's Craft Day also today. Those are all your days today. Only 5 things today, but they involved food. National Potato Chip Day. You can't get past that, man. I'm always eating those dang things. Or as they call them in London, crisps.
Yes.
That's hard to say.
Crisps.
Let's make words hard to say. I'm sorry. Chips is easier. Let's just get rid of the PS part of it completely. Let's call them taters. Those are your days. That's your nonsense. That's your week. That's your rundown. That's your news that already happened that I thought hadn't happened yet. As in the Eclipse. For today, March 14th, 2025, on Before Potato Chips.
And don't forget, guys, the world is your clam. So don't let anyone tell you what you're allowed to do.
Right.
There's another mixed metaphor for you. It's also going to be an International Day tomorrow. So not today, but tomorrow. But hey, I think you should celebrate all of these international observances every day because they're very important things. There's a reason the UN has them as observances. So what is tomorrow's observance? International Day to combat Islamophobia. That's right. Other people have religions. Don't be scared of them. Islamophobia is a fear, prejudice, and hatred of Muslims that lead to provocation, hostility, and intolerance by means of threatening, harassment, abuse, incitement, and intimidation of Muslims and non-Muslims, both in the online and offline world. motivated by the institutional, ideological, and political religious hostility that transcends into structural cultural racism, targets the symbols and markers of being a Muslim, which can be anything. Because once you start saying, we don't like those guys, you start making up reasons to identify them. Hey, your skin's brown. Are you a Muslim? You have a mustache. Are you a Muslim? You don't cut your hair. Are you a Muslim? That's a thing, right? There's a certain sect of Muslims that don't cut their hair. They never do. They tie it up. So, you know.
Yeah.
That's like, any man with long hair shall be, I don't know, stoned. I don't know.
Ostracized.
But we don't want that. So stop doing it. Leave people alone unless they're actually physically and emotionally harming you. Mind your own damn business. And that's my message for you for the international observance of Islamophobia, or I guess fighting Islamophobia specifically. But yes, that's the end of our lovely little adventure this week. I hope you enjoyed learning about all the stuff that's been going on this week. And today, we will see you after the weekend on Mucking Fun Day to review anything else that's been going on. So make sure that you are subscribed. You have that notification bell clicked so you know when we go live for Mucking Fun Day. Now it's time for our mic drop moment. This is the huge fire we missed on Monday.
Yeah.
That is now completely gone now. There's a little bit of fire still happening, but for the most part...
A little map to show you where it happened.
Yeah. Right off the coast. Very close.
Here they go. They're going to make. It's not two ships passing. There we go.
So they were just parked there then. That's what I'm saying. The so long crashed into them, but the so long isn't the one who's being, or is it the so long that's being? I don't know which ship is being investigated. But.
And then the one that rammed into him is being arrested.
The wave heights were only sort of like 2 meters, nothing untoward. But the only thing there has been all day has been.
Oh, this must be McDonough or whatever his name was.
This morning it's been very
Coast Guard,
and the fog has never lifted. So I would imagine that at that time when the accident took place, that there would have been fog. But having said that,
it's a pretty big fire, but it's gone now, right? It doesn't look like that anymore. They've mostly gotten rid of that huge bellowing flame.
Kit that's known to man about how to navigate and radars and everything. So it's a very unusual and tragic accident. There's no doubt about it.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.